I don't think many people in the internet space today are really thinking a lot about the future either. You know, they're not thinking about the past or the future, they're thinking about the present. The real-time web, literally, that is about the present. I'm Nova Spivack. I'm the current co-founder of Live Matrix. Previously, I was the CEO and founder of Twine.com, and before that, I was one of the co-founders of EarthWeb, and I also actively angel invest in Clout.com and a bunch of other startups these days. Yeah, I think attention in a lot of different dimensions. Getting attention from your users or potential users, getting attention from potential funders. There's a lot more noise in every dimension of the industry and the marketplace. And so yeah, I think attention is kind of the word, not just for the difficulties and barriers for startups, but also it's the opportunity. You know, everybody's thinking about the attention economy and services to help focus attention and filter attention and monetize attention. So attention is kind of the word, I think, of this period of the web. It kind of reminds me of Clay Shirky's continuous partial attention and sort of this whole issue of people having sort of cognitive overload, less time to attend to new things. And so every new service is competing for a fraction that remains of our free time. Or it's just trying to displace something else that's already inhabiting some of that time. I actually look at it in another way. I think about, with the real-time web, the increasing amount of information that we have to attend to per unit of time, per hour, per minute, per second even, is changing the nature of what we think of as the present. It's changing the now, if you will. I think that the now is becoming a lot denser. There's a lot more information per unit of now than there was before. And so in some respects, the now, it's getting shorter in a way. It's changing. The horizon that we have to think about is getting narrower. Whereas the now used to be maybe a day for a lot of people, or an hour maybe. Now it really is seconds. Yeah, I think actually there is a tension between sort of data, information, and even further up the stack, knowledge. Take a service like Twitter. It started out where almost every update, you could think of as information or maybe even knowledge. Now there are updates which are really just data. So-and-so is on the southeast corner of such and such an intersection. Now they're on the southwest corner. That's not really useful information. That's just raw data. More and more applications are going to be pushing simple little updates, status changes, little chunks of data out into Twitter. And as that happens, it's going to completely clog it up with all this noise. And so, the information is in there too, but getting the information out from all of that noise is getting harder. So there's going to be an opportunity for services that either consolidate all of that data into information, like showing a map of where somebody is, not just a bunch of updates, or filtering out the information that you want or that actually matters from all of that noise. I mean, one of the problems with Twitter right now, even though they've talked about adding metadata and annotations, is they don't really have it yet. And so there's no real effective way to filter what's coming through that fire hose. Well, obviously I've spent many years working on the semantic web and semantics, and I've been a big believer in this idea that metadata does help you filter the fire hose. And I still believe that. I think how that will manifest is still open to a lot of debate. But certainly, let's take again Twitter as an example. I think they will add annotations. They've talked about it, and I hope they do a good job of it because it'll make Twitter immensely powerful, far more powerful than it is today. Twitter, to me, is the beginning of a global publish and subscribe infrastructure. Now, it's strange that we're settling on a centralized architecture that's proprietary to do that. There's lots of other ways it could have been implemented that could have been decentralized and open, and maybe that will eventually even happen. There was Jabber, for example, which which does have XML in its protocol, and there's lots of things you can do with that. I think Twitter will inevitably go in that direction. They have to. And as that happens in the case of Twitter, we'll start to be able to do very rich things in real time. For example, real-time classified advertising, real-time market research, real-time business-to-business e-commerce over this kind of, using Twitter as a bus, if you will, to distribute this information. So I think, in that dimension, in the real-time web, we're gonna see the rise of metadata as an important payload on every message that will enable a lot more filtering to happen. And it's really, really critical, because then applications can start to selectively publish and subscribe to the stream. Nobody will actually look at their Twitter stream directly anymore. What we're doing right now, it's kind of like, imagine if you could literally go up to the telephone line on your street and just plug into it and hear all that noise that was flowing through it. That's what we're doing today with Twitter. As more and more information starts to flow into it, and it gets more and more crowded, and metadata starts getting packed onto that, it's going to become absolutely packed with data, and we're going to need ways to pull back, to zoom out, and to really filter and just look at the human part of it, not all the stuff that the applications are using, and just the part that's relevant to us. So that's just that dimension. And the same thing is going to happen in the other dimensions of the web. There's got to be more ways to filter the web. The kind of keyword way of searching and filtering and discovering content, it doesn't scale to the amount of content that we're getting. Even services like Google and Bing they're actively exploring metadata in lots of different ways. So Google acquired MetaWeb to add rich snippets so that they could make richer, more filterable search results. Bing, with the acquisition of PowerSet, they have been working on rich snippets. They have rich snippets in their interface. That's an example of semantic search actually happening in the big search engines, which is showing that they wouldn't be doing it if keyword search was the ultimate answer. It's not. You have to go into this metadata view of the world in order to make sense of all this data. So I think we'll see more of that happening because of the problem that's being created by all of this information that we're generating. We've created a problem, and we're going to solve it with even more information. There's this question of evolution versus revolution. I've always preferred the revolution kind of approach. Jump ahead, make the thing that's supposed to be here, look further in the future and build it today, rather than gradually evolve something in a piecemeal fashion and sort of get there kind of late. The strategy that a lot of the incumbents take is the evolution approach. They have a product. They gradually tweak it in little ways, and eventually they get sort of somewhere near a solution that works. Often they get there really late, like Microsoft, for example. Google's doing the same thing. They were revolutionary, and now they're really evolutionary. You don't see them, they've attempted a few times, for example, Google Wave, to revolutionize things, but they didn't even have the guts to keep that going for more than 3 months. So, I don't know why, but, it seems to me that, as companies get larger, they lose the ability to be revolutionary. The internet industry and our US innovation sector, definitely are at risk of losing their leadership position to emerging economies that may, not have so many incumbents, may support startups more, or simply may be more nimble. I also think within our own economy, we'll see new upstarts that do revolutionize things, and it might not be Twitter, Facebook, Google, or Microsoft. It's always going to be some surprising little startup that we haven't heard of. Most companies, most organizations spend more time looking either at the past or the present than the future. But it's interesting, there's another way of looking at all this. So prior to the 20th century, you could say that our civilization was focused on the past. There was an obsession with things like the classics, for example. The way education was done. It's all about history. It's all about previous thinkers. There wasn't that much focus on the present. Nobody was really taught that much about what was happening now. They were taught about what the Greeks did. When we got into the 20th century, we shifted to futurism. There became a big obsession with the future and what could be done about innovation and industry and progress and all the amazing things that technology could do. And there was an obsession. Science fiction became a huge genre, for example. So there's this obsession with the future. I would submit that in the 21st century, the shift is to the present, and that we are now entering a civilization which lives more in the now. It doesn't live in the past. It doesn't think about the future. It's thinking about the present. Because the present is actually overwhelming. If you don't think about it, it's hard to cope with it. It's happening faster. It's denser. And in many ways, the past is almost irrelevant to a lot of people. I mean, if you ask a college student today, what the relevance of ancient Greece is to the world they live in, they're not going to have much of an answer. Now, there may very well be a good answer, but it just isn't in our culture anymore the way it used to be. Similarly, I don't think many people in the internet space today are really thinking a lot about the future either. They're not thinking about the past or the future. They're thinking about the present. The real-time web, literally, that is about the present. Everybody's focused on, how do we cope with this moment, this situation we're in of being overloaded with information. And I think that also affects the way we invent. So, it's true, maybe Apple was more futuristic in their outlook when they came up with the iPhone. It's true they were breaking with tradition. They were breaking with the past, and they did things which were outside of the box. And that's kind of what they're known for. Every major generation of their product line has done that. And somehow it's in their DNA. And it'd be a very interesting book, actually, or study to figure out, what is it about Apple that's so different that they're in their DNA that enables them as an organization to make these really out-of-the-box products versus other companies that don't do that. But I think the vast majority of products and innovations of companies that we're going to see in this 10-year, at least 10-year phase that we're in, it's going to be about the present. It's going to be products that simply help us deal with the unique situation we're in now of this almost ubiquitous web that's almost always on and is increasingly overloading us with data about everything, and also asking us to provide it with tremendous amounts of data, which we never even would have imagined providing even 10 years ago. I mean, telling the whole world everywhere you go as you move around the city is a completely strange and invasive idea. And yet people are starting to do it as if it's common, sort of what we've always done. And it's a very strange thing. And it's going to create new problems. I mean, if you're a celebrity today, it will be possible. You'll have no privacy whatsoever. Not only are the paparazzi going to chase you, but everybody's going to chase you. Because in Facebook, in Facebook Places, you can tag people who are in a place that you're in. So if a celebrity happens to be having a nice, quiet lunch with their spouse in a restaurant, you happen to be there, you can tag them, and all of a sudden all these fans will show up. So it's a completely different world even than last year. And there's a lot of challenges in it.